We are a little help, and we help connect neighbors of all ages. We've grown from being Washington Park Cares and being in 2 neighborhoods in Denver, and in the last 4 years, we have our last service Saturday, we served over 20 zip codes. And so, which is, we went from 2 to 20, and we're very happy about the way that we're able to coordinate volunteers to develop reciprocal services. Today there are many volunteers shoveling walks. I know that there's one person here that didn't get her walk shoveled, and so we're working on finding her a new volunteer to shovel walks. And so we give rides to the doctor, we give rides to beauty appointments, and we help with things like this. Educational series that we do called Tough Talks that are things like knowing when to give up the keys, elder fraud issues. What's the next one we have, Hillary?
Like fall and slip prevention.
Fall and slip prevention. And then today, of course, this is one of our most special so far, which is on elder fraud, senior scams, those things. I'd like to introduce you to a great panel of folks that we're very happy. I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Paul Ramsey. I didn't say that even. I'm the executive director, and I want to really thank Hillary Lenz, our program director, for putting this great panel together and for the great work she did. And I'd like to also thank these 5 panelists here. We are very happy to have Mitch Morrissey, the district attorney of the city of Denver here. I'm going to read you a short bio on him. He's been the district attorney. He was elected district attorney in November 2004, so 11 years ago, and was sworn into office January 11th, 2005. He is responsible for the prosecution of more than 6,000 felony and 18,000 misdemeanor criminal cases every year. As the chief prosecutor for the 2nd Judicial District, Mitch is an aggressive prosecutor, an active advocate of prevention and intervention initiatives. And you can see that as most of us, I think, here live in Denver County, the city of Denver, and he shows that he's our advocate by being here today and by helping to coach us and educate us on some really important issues. Mitch is a Denver native, graduate of DU Law at the University of Colorado Boulder and Mullen High School. We also are happy to have and wave to the adoring masses Aaron Bagully, MBA financial advisor at Edward Jones, from the MBA from the University of Denver. He's worked in the financial services industry since 2007. Aaron was formerly a Denver police officer. He helps develop families' financial strategies, retirement saving strategies to give more options in retirement, and is very familiar with our issue here today. Cary Johnson, wave please to the adoring masses, there you go. Director of Crime Prevention, First District Attorney's Office, Jefferson County. And then Police Sergeant, is that still true? You're Police Sergeant and former detective, is that right? Yes. Ana Brun, Economic Crimes Unit, Investigative Division, Lakewood Police Department. Thank you very much for being here. And then maybe our most special guest is Nancy Meyer. Nancy is an employee through the AARP Seniors Employment Program. She's been working with us at A Little Help for the last 2 years. Is this correct, Nancy? Yes, for the last 2 years. One of the things that Nancy does for A Little Help is she calls all of our members, all of our senior members, as often as they'd like to be called. And so she takes fastidious notes, and one of the things that's been the best for us about preventing scam issues is because Nancy's making weekly and sometimes more than weekly calls to folks, anything that's suspicious, anything that's dangerous, whether it's around the home or kind of predators that we'll talk some about today, we're keeping in constant touch, and I think that's one of the most, Nancy provides one of the sweetest and most valuable services that A Little Help has to offer. And so we welcome Nancy here as well. She has some personal experience on this issue that she's courageous enough to share for your benefit. Thank you for being here, and we're going to start. What was our order of program?
I was just gonna go in the order you announced it.
All right, here we go. Mr. Morrissey.
So I get to go first?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
You want me to stand or?
No, I'd like for you to sit down because it's
Oh.
framed right here perfectly.
Okay. Well, first of all, if any of you have any trouble hearing me, let me know. I practiced law as a trial lawyer for almost 30 years. So if your jury doesn't hear you, it doesn't do any good to be in the courtroom. So if you have any, just raise your hand or give me the signal. You don't look like the kind of group that would be shy about doing that, especially since you came out on a day like today. I was down in Miami about a year ago, and I followed the Portland DA. And he got up and said, I am the DA of Portland, which is the San Francisco of the Northwest. And I got up, I'm the Denver DA, the Amsterdam of the United States. So anytime I have an opportunity to come out and talk about something other than pot, I really jump at the opportunity. And this is one of those things that hits me right here, because my dad practiced law for 50 years in this town. Maybe some of you know him. His name is Mike Morrissey. And he retired about 10 years ago. And I go over every Sunday and have breakfast with he and my mother. I've got to tell my mother to cut down on the number of eggs that she makes me. But I started to notice these magazines. 17 magazine, bicycling magazine, Golf Digest. And I was like, sometimes 2 or 3 subscriptions to these magazines. And I said to my dad, I said, what is this, Dad? What are these magazines? And my mother said, they call him and he orders them. And then when he says he already has them, he re-ups. And some of these magazines he's going to be getting until he's about 120 years old. And I thought, this looks like a problem. And one of the things that he was doing smart, I respected him growing up, is he was falling for the trap. These are predators, and they are very good. And he'd always say, oh yeah, kid, I know when they call. I fool them, I talk to them, I play with them, that type of thing. But here's this stack of magazines. And my brother and my sister and I and all the rest of our family got very concerned because the bill for those magazines was getting substantial. And you could not keep him off of the phone. And you still couldn't today. If we called him, he'd be sitting in his kitchen today, he would answer the phone, and he would love to talk to you. Because that's what he did as a lawyer. He went all over the state of Colorado. He talked to people in different courthouses. He knew all the police. He knew all the lawyers, and that's what he loved. And that's what he misses. And that's why they're taking advantage of him. So we were pretty desperate. We figured out, as the DA, where this is all coming from. These were all people out of Florida that were selling him these magazines. So we blocked the area code of Florida. He doesn't know anybody in Florida, right? He doesn't need to be taking any calls from Florida. And they started to call him from Minnesota. And we blocked Minnesota. And they started to call him from another state. Finally, my sister and I sat down and we blocked every area code in the United States, with the exception of Louisiana, where my sister lives, and New Hampshire, where my brother's family lives. No one else needs to call my dad from any other area code. And he still gets the magazines, but he doesn't order them anymore. And these people know that household. It is shocking when they call and my mother gets on the phone and starts to give them a hard time. They get aggressive with her. They get insulting with her. They say, you're the one with Alzheimer's, to her. But they give credit card numbers out. He gives credit card numbers, all those things, if they can get him on the phone. So this is something that's near and dear to my heart. And I'll tell you, we got an economic crime unit at the Denver District Attorney's Office. that handles these cases. And sadly, we do all kinds of white-collar crime. About 30% of our victims in those crimes are elderly or seniors. Their people are out after you. They come at you from different directions with different disguises, but they're after you, and they're very good about what they do. So anybody that thinks, oh, I'll just stay on the phone and talk with them, that you're going to lose. You're going to lose money. And they really come at you different ways. One, we all like a good deal, right? So you always say to yourself, if that sounds too good to be true, guess what? It's too good to be true. It's not true, and they're there to rip you off. The other thing that I think is almost more disturbing, these con men have been around forever. We call them predators because that's really what they are. They now have these scare tactics that we've started to see, where it's, you didn't go to jury duty. The sheriff's going to come after you. You didn't pay your taxes. Your grandson's in jail in Mexico. And they all have the same thing. For you to go, oh my God, I forgot something. What do I do to fix it? And what they want you to do is one of two things. Give your social security number to them. Now, why would the jury commissioner need your social security number? Or wire you money. Wire them money. The grandson needs to get out of jail, so wire your money to Mexico. So they come at you from all different ways, all different sizes, and they play on your emotions. And the sad thing is, and I'll have to tell you this, is 70% of the crimes where we see seniors exploited or abused, it's family. A lot of family members. And so those of you that have friends, those of you that go work out, health clubs, you have your usual friends, you play cards, those kinds of things, we always ask you to help us watch out. Help us understand what's going on out there. Your eyes and ears, you call us. We have a fraud line. We've got materials. I've got the number here. You know, if these people keep bugging you, tell them to call us. I guarantee you, they aren't going to call us for long. We have materials that we give out. We send out a monthly fraud alert all over the city for people to know what the latest scams are. Get a hold of our different preventative materials. We don't want you to be victims. We want you to be educated so you can keep yourself from being victimized by these predators. Mara is here. If you have a group that you want to have her come and present, she goes all over the city doing presentations for us to try to stop this crime. We know we can't prevent it all, but we'd sure like to stop it, because I'll tell you, once the bleeding starts, it's awful hard to stop. And so I don't know how long I was supposed to go on.
Well, but the question I have for you, are you able to stick around for after the rest of the panel? So what we'll do, and I didn't do a great job of explaining. At the end, we'll have a chance for question and answer, and we'll try to. I think that a lot of our time today will be interactive like that. So this is great, and we'll. Nancy, you're on, and then we thank you.
Just one more thing. Last year, the good news is we got a bill through the legislature. If you've ever dealt with the legislature, you understand how hard that is to do. It's a bill that people that deal with seniors or the elderly, people over the age of 70, become mandatory reporters when they see the signs of abuse, financial abuse, exploitation. And we go around the city talking to them because we don't want to put them in jail. The last thing in the world I want to do is prosecute a doctor or a banker. But if they report to us what they're seeing, then we know about it and we can stop the bleeding. I have a full-time investigator that just handles these cases. Morrow's full-time when it comes to advising. And I have two ladies that sit down in my office and answer that fraud line. and they are two of the busiest people in the city and county of Denver. So thanks for having me today. They told me to talk for 10 minutes,
That's
but
great.
I can stop. You're the judge, I'll stop. Thank you.
Well, I want you to have.
No, I'll stick around.
There's going to be people who are going to have very specific questions for you, and I think that one of the pieces that's important about what we're doing here today, and I think connection to neighbors, is the predators really are able to figure out who's isolated and how they're not going to be able to share these things. And so I think that I'd love to hear you talk in a moment about strategies for those type of connections. Nancy?
Hi there. My name is Nancy Meyer, and I'm the care caller at A Little Help. I call our members each week to check in on them and listen to their incredible life stories. I could write a book. One day last May, I received a phone call notifying me that my computer had been violated by some outside computer scammers. I asked whom he represented, and he said a subcontractor for Microsoft. So I assumed it was legit. He went on to explain how they could fix my computer, but told me they would have to access my computer inside to clean it out. That seemed to make sense, so I allowed him into my computer to do his process. I saw his cursor on my screen, making strange movements and processes going on with occasional weird words and figures. He had explained to me that this service would cost only $200 and included a 1-year warranty on their services. This renewed security and warranty seemed important enough for $200, so I agreed, and the computer activity continued for over an hour. He told me I could leave the computer and they would call me back when finished. He called me back on my cell phone again. How did he give my number in the first place? I should have thought in the first place. To report their process was over and to arrange for payment. In the meantime, I had tried to reach Microsoft at his phone number, which had a weird prefix on it, and it didn't work. So I called Microsoft corporate offices from their website number, and of course no one knew what I was talking about. So when he called back, I questioned him further. By the way, he told me his name was James Jones, but he had a foreign accent, so I assumed he was with an overseas Microsoft Technology Center, which they have many of. He explained their connection with Microsoft again to my satisfaction, moment. So we arranged for my payment by credit card, another moment. So he had my bank account number. James then told me no, I would have to send cash by Western Union. And the minimum amount Western Union would wire was $1,500. And they would refund the difference between $1,500 and $200. He even pointed out which Western Union locations were near me, and even named the businesses they were in, like Rite Aid. I told him I would have to think about this, and he insisted I go there immediately. I told him no, and he said it would only take a few minutes to get to the Rite Aid and to go now. I told him no, and he threatened to freeze my computer if I didn't follow his instructions. There was a weird picture on my computer, and I couldn't get it to move. At this point, I knew he was a crook, a scammer, and I'd been taken. I hung up and shut down my computer. He called me back again to threaten, and I hung up on him. He then called my home phone number. At this point, I recognized his number, so I didn't answer. Then he started calling me over and over continuously. So I finally shut off my cell phone and took my home phone off the hook because it was now late at night. The next day, at A Little Help, I explained what was going on, and Paul sent me straight to the Denver Police Department. I then went to my bank and closed all my accounts and cards. I told him to watch for attempted charges of $1,500. The police officer took my report details and told me he had witnessed this fraud many times. And I realized what an easy target I had been. He called me the next day to tell me there's nothing Denver Police Department can do about these scams because they are based in foreign countries. Of course, now I know where to report this for fraud. He opened a file for me for future reference. The scammers had even used Colorado phone numbers to call me, all different phone numbers, and continued to threaten my computer. Finally, they realized I wasn't going to answer my phone and went away. This whole ordeal was over a week for them to give up calling me. And I still saw their number occasionally for a while on my phone. And for me to work with my banker for part of that week and beyond to handle my accounts. A friend referred me to his technology expert friend. A friend of a friend referred me. And he took my whole computer home and cleaned it out. So I was grateful for that. I've trusted my computer issues only to him ever since. If you get a call from someone offering to clean or fix your computer, decline and hang up. Use only technology friends or personal referrals to fix your computer. If you have no one else to turn to, the Geek Squad at Best Buy is very thorough and does come to your home, but they can be expensive, just so you know, but they're good. So I learned the hard way. So beware, take care, and good luck.
Thank you, Nancy. That's very courageous. Thank you.
So my name is Aaron Bagully. I'm a financial advisor with Edward Jones, and actually I've received that same phone call. They call everybody in Denver. They're awful. One of the things that, as a financial advisor, we a lot of times will act almost as oversight on people's investment accounts. And so I've seen a lot of pretty egregious financial abuse of seniors. Everything from a lovely lady who received a phone call that her grandson was in jail in Mexico and they needed money wired. She called us anxious, needing the money wired right away. And I said, well, did you talk to him? Well, I think so. So we ended up helping her make some calls, and turns out he was phony. I've had clients that were, had scams perpetrated against them by their CPA. Someone who they had a long-time relationship with that had started taking advantage of them. So what we feel is that what you need is oversight in the decisions you're making and what's going on. And the best way to do that is there's a stack over there of pages that I put up here that says kind of protecting mature investors. And it's got some really good red flags on it that you should watch out for. Just so when you're working with friends or talking to friends, either at the community center, at church, at synagogue, if they start complaining about seeing a rapid decline in their accounts that they can't explain, and if someone like me says, well, it's just market conditions, if you are invested correctly, market conditions should not cause a rapid decline in your account. If there is a rapid decline, either your financial advisor is doing something egregious, or something else is going on. If your friends start missing appointments, they're not making it to appointments that they usually make it to. If they have family members or acquaintances that are suddenly much more interested in what's going on with their money, or more active in their life than usual, or new friends that are suddenly real buddy-buddy with them, especially if there's a very large age difference, these are all things that we should all watch out for, because these are all not necessarily bad things, but these are all signs of things that can be worse. Most financial crimes are perpetrated by a family member or by someone who someone has a very long relationship with. So it's important but it doesn't happen usually amongst groups of people. It's usually a sole individual. So you can be the oversight for your friends and for your family. It's very rare that someone's going to be taken advantage of by both children or by a financial advisor and a CPA. So if you can be, if you're having conversations, you can be part of this and you can help see those red flags. And when you do, I've dealt with Mitch's office for a couple of clients, made recommendations, helped people get in there. They are fabulous. They will do everything they can to help out. They will help point in the right direction. But still, you have to sometimes be the squeaky wheel. Is if you don't say anything, nothing's going to happen. So you have to not be afraid to stand up and go, this isn't right. This isn't what it should be. What do we need to do to fix this? When you're in somebody's house that you've been friends with for a long time, if you start seeing maybe pieces of art that aren't there anymore, or knickknacks that were family heirlooms, these are all signs of someone might be getting taken advantage of if these things start showing up not there anymore. Obviously, we need to watch for changes to mental faculties. As we get older, we start forgetting things, and a lot of times that becomes the first sign of where someone will start taking advantage. So, again, as a community, we need to work with everybody else. That's my spiel. So I'm quick.
Thank you.
Do I get his time?
Absolutely.
There you go.
I stole some from Mitch already though, so I gotta give it back.
Don't worry, I'll get mine.
Hey, a really terrific Monday morning is the Monday after the Broncos have beaten the New England Patriots the night before. But an extraordinary Monday. Now, sir, would you either wave your hat or put your hat back on? An extraordinary Monday for me is when my alma mater, UCLA, beats their crosstown rival, USC. This is only a terrific Monday. So, yeah, our alma mater got beat there, huh? Pretty bad. If I have any information to share, and Mauro probably relates to this quite a bit, it's because on the plus side, we talk to an awful lot of people. On the negative side, an awful lot of them, unfortunately, are like Nancy's story, where people are calling to tell us about their story of victimization. I'm looking at a room of folks that mostly, Hillary's a little younger here, mostly come from a great generation. A generation that was trusting, a generation that was honest, a generation whose word was their bond. And now those great virtues have become vulnerabilities. Because these are the things that the crooks know about the older generation that they're preying upon. And then you add some other factors. Now try to add some things that no one else has touched on yet. This scares me to death because I'm part of the older generation. Dr. Robert Parker, who's a gerontologist for the University of Texas Medical School, has studied older adults and their aging issues for most of his lifetime, states that probably 60% of older adults, 75 and older, have a form of Alzheimer's from mild to medium that has gone undiagnosed. That makes them extraordinarily vulnerable. So I've come to say, when I go out and talk to the public, a sad thing, and that is aging is hazardous to your health. Because there are three things that I see happening. We've got that whole notion of elder abuse. And as Mr. Morrissey suggested, most of it being perpetrated by family members, and if not by family members, by caregivers. In our office, 78% of our elder abuse is financial exploitation, and those are the people who are being prosecuted. So the very people who are given the task of caring for older adults, of expressing love for older adults, family members and or caregivers are the ones who are turning around and exploiting them. Secondly, we see these predators, these meth-addicted, heroin-addicted addicts who are watching for you in the parking lot of King Supers and in the mall, who are looking for an opportunity to nab your wallet, nab the billfold out of your purse, to commit some kind of identity theft. So here you just go out and you're living your good life. And these people who are predators, they're really looking for you, are out there where you go. And then if that's not bad enough, then like Nancy experienced, you can sit in your very own home and by email, by telephone call, have one of these people from another part of the world, Jamaica, India, Pakistan, enter your home via telephone and computer to fool you and to try to open your pocket and to pick your pocket in that manner. So it seems like everywhere the senior population is going, someone, somewhere, is looking to make you a victim of crime. And the offshoots of that victimization are horrific. There's the physical toll that it takes. Another study was done by Dr. Mark Lax, who's at the Cornell University Medical School. He actually studied 10,000 older adults, 8,000 older adults over a period of 10 years, quite an extensive study. And unfortunately, his conclusions were this, that older adults that become victims of crime are 3 times more likely to die earlier than their peers. So there's a real physical manifestation from crime. There's the emotional manifestation. You know, if I was walking down, I better not say Denver because there's no crime that happens in Denver. If I was walking down the main street of Golden, up where our office is
Not
at.
Lakewood too, there is.
You know, if someone jumped out of an alley and stuck a gun in my ribs and lifted my wallet, I'd go home and I'd call my daughters right away and tell them what happened. But when someone calls and picks your pocket over the phone, or someone nabs your wallet at the supermarket, I have older adults call me and say, I feel so foolish. I feel like I did something dumb. And I'll say, did you talk to your relatives? No, I don't want them to know. So there's no emotional support for those folks who have become victims. They just kind of work it through on their own. And then there's the financial ramifications. I've got a police report with me today of an older gentleman who lost $184,000 by going to an online dating website. By the way, seniors are the fastest rising users of online dating websites. Isn't that amazing? Who just got played over and over and over and over again, to the tune of sending off by wire $184,000 that left the country. He can't get that back. His life will never be the same. So this is just an absolutely horrific issue that we're looking at. Information is power. If we can get information out there, if we can get legislation, I don't think these phone calls from out of the country are going to stop without federal law. We can't do it here on a state level. We need to get some help from our federal legislators. There's a new law coming out January 18th of next year. It'll help. It's called the telemarketing sales rule. It will disallow any kind of business or commercial venture from asking for any kind of payment by wire transfer. That will help. Because now when seniors call and say on the fraud hotline to Denver or to Jeffco, well, they want me to send money by wire transfer. No, that's illegal. So that will be a help. But we're far behind, and these crooks just have a leg up, and we need to have good information as probably one of the best forms of prevention.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Ana Brun, and I have the unfortunate job of going through all of these reports every morning and really realizing how pervasive fraud is. And it's not just against the elderly. Granted, there's a ripe market there. Typically, the elder population has some financial means that younger people do not have. Younger people also have the tech savvy, et cetera. But I will tell you that during the course of my year upstairs, all 3 sergeants and our commander have been financially compromised in some way this year alone. Granted, that's typically via credit card, and the benefit to using credit cards versus your debit cards, again, that's kind of scary because so many people of the older generations are used to using cash, pay by cash. But they get access to your bank accounts, whereas credit cards will actually pay you back your money if your credit cards are financially compromised. Banks, however, they struggle a little bit more with it, and then you get into your wire transfers and your prepaid cards, and you're just flat out the money. Nobody's gonna cover you on that. So just a couple things there. Kind of following up on what Cary said too, these guys are not out to fight fair. I opened a piece of mail the other day that I'd won a free trip to Las Vegas. And I, who read these reports every single day, had that moment of, they can't actually just send this through the mail, can they? And when I got down to, this is our last attempt to try to reach you, I thought, you haven't tried to reach me before. So instantly, I knew that this is just a scam. It's another scam. And they're utilizing our postal service to get at us. And again, you think, they can't do this, can they? But they're not out to fight fair. They're out to get your money. It's extremely lucrative for criminals to go this route. So many of our addicts and our people who used to do burglaries and things have started to shift into identity theft because it's so much easier, it's so much more lucrative, and it's so much harder to track. So as Nancy was talking about this caller, and Mitch was talking about the different phone numbers, this is something that's somewhat foreign, and I have a lot of people call and say, look, they told me their name, this is their phone number, can't you follow up? And they are able to create any number. And we, as a police department, have been able to do this for years, but now with the internet and different websites, you can just log into a website, enter a phone number, and make a call. And that's not something that most of us have conceived of, especially using in a criminal way. So a phone number and an address, they are getting, sex offenders are a new target. All of their information is out on the web for criminals to even utilize and victimize other criminals. They're after anybody and everybody. And so these repackaging schemes, I saw a sign on the side of the road the other day, and again, that thought of, I can't believe they can just do this. They had a sign out that said, you know, looking to work from home, make some extra money. And I thought, it's right here. It's so blatant. And the minute you jump onto that is the minute they've got your number. And they're not just these individuals working out of a hotel room. Some of them are, but a lot of times it's big network, and things are passed and passed. I went to a training this year in which I was able to go into the dark web, which I'm sure a lot of you have not heard of. Other police officers I know are unfamiliar with the dark web. But essentially, they sell credit card information 9-10 cents, and they can just download all the credit card information that was used at, say, the big one was the Flying Dutchman was what it was called, and it was a compromised park and ride at a huge airport. And essentially every credit card that got used there was for sale, and then they percentage rank it as for how valuable it is. Is it an American Express with great credit rating? You know, is it has it been out there too long, and chances are the person's figured this out already, so then people can just go in and buy these credit card information. Now again, like I said, credit card information is going to be refunded by your credit card company most of the time. Problem is, what's that doing to our country, right? Our banks are constantly backfilling for us, and who's paying for that? All of us are. Another scam that's out there, is, and this was a new one to me, but this is how dirty they get. You check into a hotel, and you get a call from the front desk that says, I'm sorry, we've had a computer glitch. Could you just give me the credit card information that you just gave me 2 minutes ago at the front desk? And you provide their credit card information. And of course, a hotel phone doesn't necessarily have caller ID, and they know which hotel they're calling. This is Sandy at the front desk. And we don't question that. We just provided that information to someone. So there's another route. Now, the younger people in your family, if you don't, the younger people in your family probably have a Facebook page. They will troll Facebook and gather all kinds of information. One of the latest scams, because the son in jail in Mexico is starting to kind of lose its oomph a little bit, is the I've been in a horrible car accident. I'm sorry I don't sound the same because my voice or my trachea or my throat or something was impacted by the airbag. And Mandy, my girlfriend, which they figured out based on the website, the Facebook website, was horribly injured. Please send money, we need to cover. And then you get the follow-up phone call, which was, it turns out that the person in the other car, was pregnant and lost the baby, and they just keep going and going and going. And unfortunately, with all the information that they've gathered about your loved ones, they can make it sound incredibly reasonable and realistic and truthful. And it's simply not. So always, always, always reach out and ask the questions of your loved ones. Is this person in Mexico? Is this person in Canada? Are they traveling in Europe? Gather information, get your posse around you in order to help determine this information. Taxes. Tax season is coming up. Please, 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 even if you owe money, file your taxes early. I was still getting people in, I think even I got one in September, which was, I tried to file my taxes and my taxes have already been filed in my name for massive refunds, of course. And then you're dealing with the IRS, and the IRS is a monster. I'm sure you guys know that. It is a huge, 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 government entity, and getting through their system is incredibly cumbersome. So definitely, even if you owe, just file your taxes early. Save yourself the hassle of trying to file on April 14th and finding out that it's already been filed for you, and now you are in a world of hurt when it comes to trying to rectify that situation. Anything where they overpay you, don't cash it. That's just one of those. Oh, and my brother's a postal worker, and he just informed me, so I should have said this back when I was talking about the mail. You can eliminate all third-class mail from coming to your home. Sounds like a good plan?
I'd like to know that.
Yeah.
Feel like I'm running a post office.
Yeah.
Right.
Not the mail I send you.
Define third class.
All of the, I guess I probably shouldn't be the one defining it, but it's essentially your junk mail, all your unsolicited mail, everything that comes to
How about the
so-and-so or
nonprofits?
current residents. Nonprofits.
Nonprofits, is that also included?
They usually get a
Yes.
first-class stamp.
I think
Absolutely, yes. The biggest fraud being perpetrated in America today is the Wounded Warriors program.
Right.
I'm a cowboy, send me a buck. It's, you send them a buck, and you know how much they spend on Wounded Warriors? 49 cents. Yes, every single nonprofit is at risk, and you can find that information on online about how much they actually spend. I run a nonprofit that spends in excess of 99 cents of every dollar. Why would you want to send a drunken cowboy who's only going to spend 51 cents on Wounded Warriors? Don't get me started.
Okay. So definitely, your not-for-profits are something to watch out for after a tsunami. That was big. Everybody was trying to get in and cash in on that in regards to, hey, we've started a not-for-profit, here, donate money. and a lot of that money was not reaching its sources. So definitely know who you're donating to. But essentially, just really do rely on the people around you to confide in, to share this information with, because like I said, it's not just the elderly population that's being targeted. They are for specific scams. We call them the grandparent scams and things like that. But if I can sit up here and tell you that all of us in ranking positions at the Lakewood Police Department on my floor were victimized this year, you should be able to confide in your son or your daughter or your brother or sister or your close neighbor and just say, look, I think this is going sideways. Or have you heard, or what do you think about? Bounce these things off of one another. It's infuriating, and you have a right to be angry. I will use that word, angry about it, rather than feel silly or like you were taken advantage of. They are out there, and they are extremely good, and they are not fighting fair, and that's their goal. They can make a ton of money by being mean and pushy and vicious and vindictive. So just go ahead and reach out.
So I'd like to give a round of applause to our panelists. And also, one of the things I think that we'll move into some questions and answers, and I also, not just for taking the time to be here, but doing the jobs that you're doing. The way you do them, we really appreciate that. One of the things that each of you touched on that I think is kind of a thread is the ability to be, I think, to let your pride down, to be humble enough to connect to someone like Nancy did. I think we learn a lot by the way Nancy handled that with, coming to I guess me initially, and just talking about this and having the humility to say something's not right, this or that. Because the thing is, if she had hung on to her pride, we can all imagine the worst case scenario, right? And so I think it's a great example for all of us that we go about admitting, or just questioning, just connecting in some way. And so whether that's, for many of you who are Little Help members, calling our office and just saying, is this fishy or not? Because one of the things we've been able to do after a hailstorm, right? One of our members will call in and say, hey, there's this guy, and he's got Louisiana plates and blah, blah, blah. And he just did this, or he just did that. And we're able to call all of our members in that area and say, if this guy comes to your spot, turn him away, right? And we're able to help kind of reinforce how many incidents there were on a particular block with the police and with the district attorney's office. So I think that being willing to pick up the phone and say, is this fishy or not, is a huge deal. Let's spend some time with some questions and answers, unless there's one of our panelists that have anything that they'd like to add before we move forward. Yes, sir.
I'm going to make a comment, and it's probably addressed to what you had to say, Mitch. I'm a very, very sophisticated business guy. If you put me head-to-head with any civil lawyer, I can go toe-to-toe and kick the crap out because I've got street smarts. What I don't know is how to make the bridge over to criminal law. I don't. I just went through a scenario with some very, 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 very bad people. And the ability for me to track down your office was pretty tough. It was very, very, very tough. And in some instances, I went through city government, I went through county government to finally get to the Attorney General of the state of Colorado. And boy, they love to hear what I have to say. Secondly, the institutions that I'm currently prosecuting with the state attorney general are institutions you go, huh? And the worst is the medical profession. Okay? In their good names, I have been in two emergency rooms that could have killed me. I mean, literally could have killed me. I know enough about medicine that I have studied both East and West, and they both are now facing attempted murder charges because they literally did not have decent processes and procedures to event. In one instance, I went in having had 3 Slurpees with my son or whatever, and they kept me there for 5 hours running frivolous tests for revenue only. And when I tried to leave, explained to them that I had my rights, my son was there and they forced me to take an injection of insulin that could have killed me. My blood sugars dropped about 400 points in less than 20 minutes. That is a fatal, fatal, fatal thing to do.
Thank you for your comments. I know we have
So I
a...
would just say one thing, and that is...
Quickly.
You've said it. Don't be afraid to ever pursue something with what you consider to be a bad guy. Because you never know who the bad guys are. Let somebody else who can do that make those determinations for you.
Great advice. Thank you. Sir.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment about what Ana Brun said. There's something I've noticed that start happening over the past 4 or 5 months. The phone rings, you pick it up, you look at the number, and it's yourself.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's your own phone
Yeah.
number.
It's your own phone number
Your
on
own
your caller ID.
landline or
And another thing that I
a
do,
V.
what I will frequently do, I'll be sitting on the computer listening to Swedish television, and the phone rings, and I pick it up, and I innocently answer it, and there's nothing there or something. And so what I'll do is I'll just frequently sit it down in front of the speaker, and they can listen to Swedish television.
Yeah,
That's one.
and essentially you're tying up a robocaller.
Yeah.
They're getting really good. I mean, that's a computer program that's written in order to make the phone call appear that it's coming from you. And I get these phone calls at the police department, at my desk phone, which says, this is Sergeant Brun. I get these phone calls, and it's funny because I said at one point, you know, you don't sound like a real person. And there was a pause. I don't know what you're talking about. Of course I'm a real person. I mean, they are that well programmed.
Wow.
So, yeah, it is amazing what they are able to now program.
One back here, and then we'll move here and there. Go ahead.
One of the things, I'm a hospice volunteer, and one of the things that came out with the mandatory reporting that I would just say, I would add on, is something people don't think about. We have a lot of patients that maybe filled a prescription years ago, and they never took it, so it's sitting somewhere in a cabinet, and the amount of fraud that goes on with people, stealing people's medications is amazing. So if you have medication, either dispose of it correctly or at least keep track of it. Because one of the things that's really sad when we talk about humility is we have patients that aren't getting their medication because they're too embarrassed to admit their child might have stolen it. So to keep a list of that, and if you have any concerns, just speak up. And I would speak up to different caregivers, because that's something fraud day-to-day that we see. We're like, you don't seem like you're doing well. Are you taking your medication? And you look into their cabinets and they don't have any medication left because somebody's taken it.
Thank you. And we've noticed, one of the things that we've noticed with a little help is that many of the predatory family relationships begin to diminish when they know that there's other background check volunteers helping their grandmother or their mother with things, because they know, oh, it's not easy pickings anymore. And so it's very interesting to have that social connection that's more. Yes, Cary?
And if it's not a family member, and this is a place where it sounds like a little help's got a good handle on this, we've had numbers of instances where people would knock on a door, and there were a couple guys, man, we're working in the neighborhood, and there's no place to get a drink of water, can we just come in and get a quick drink?
No.
And they come inside, and one peels off to the bathroom, steals the medications, or other valuables as well, while the other one is keeping the owner of the home occupied out in the kitchen. So very, very, very prevalent.
Yes, ma'am.
What happened to the do not call registry?
Remember, these guys don't fight fair.
Are they just completely inundated and overwhelmed and?
Well, I mean, the registry's out there, and businesses that are legitimate use that registry. Now, these robocallers, and I'm calling them robocallers because basically it's a computer just generating every single possible phone number, they're not bouncing that off the do not call list. So if you're on the do not call list and somebody calls you, you're getting a fraudulent call. Essentially, you're getting a call from a business who has not checked that list, who is not bouncing their numbers off of that list, and they're out
So
to
it's
cheat. They're cheating.
And if they're outside the
Phone version
country,
of the Better Business
That's
Bureau.
it.
right, and if they're outside the country, there's no, you don't have, you
Is there any
can't do anything about it.
There are, you gotta remember, there are 3 exceptions to no-call. The no-call law works very, very well. It was, built to stop telemarketers. We don't get those dinner time calls as much as we did. But remember that nonprofits are exempt, politicians, political parties are exempt. Anyone you have an established business relationship with is exempt, but you can ask them to put you on their do not call list. But crooks don't pay attention to our law. So that's primarily who you're getting your calls from at this point in time.
One more thing. Say there's an individual who doesn't have a need for care.
Yes.
Recommendations.
Develop a network of care for them. I mean, honestly, that's why a little help exists. That's why.
Does a little help have something like that for someone who doesn't have family in town, doesn't?
That's what Nancy does on a weekly basis. Nancy calls, and these folks can be as connected as they want. We have volunteers who don't want to give rides, but would be more than willing to go visit with folks. We have care respite programs. We have things like, and we work in conjunction with Dr. Cog and with Volunteers of America and with all Jewish Family Services and so we're a little help, but we have connections to a lot more help, right? And so that's the way we work in the neighborhoods we work in. And so I think it's, there's some folks who we don't dictate the care or the help that the individual is getting. We work with the individual to empower that person to decide what help they need. Once we develop a relationship with them, we've developed a trusting relationship that allows them to be more and more connected to their neighbors. And so one of the things that happens for many of our folks is their neighbors, their next door neighbor, the person across the street, may be now the one shoveling their snow or doing some of the other things like taking out the recycling or things like that, so that you just have a few more eyes on the block. And our service Saturdays enable folks to see, oh, this is, that's how we've gotten many of our volunteers, is that someone will say, oh, is Ellen okay? Why? Well, I saw, 8 people out there raking yard and doing all that stuff. And oh yeah, she's great. We're a little help. And then they learn about us, and then they become connected. Especially in the city of Denver, what's happened. Well, it's true in Lakewood and other places too. As the particular blocks have become gentrified, right? There are many of our members who have lived on that block for 60 years, right? But most of their friends that they're connected to have moved away. And so what we're trying to do is reestablish those type of connections. And a lot of times someone who's lived independently in their home for 60 years, who's been a widow, a gritty widow for 30 years, right? They're intimidating to a person who scraped the house next door and built a 5,000 square foot house, right? So it's intimidating to have this woman who's been a widow for 60 years or 30 years or 20 years and who's, and has a bit of a chip on her shoulder about the fact that her house is just like the house that was scraped next door, right? To renew those type of relationships and to make it, or to begin a new relationship with a person that may already start off with some adversity, that's a huge part of what we do. And we're not the only organization that does that, but that's a big part of what we do. I've taken too much time because we have a lot more questions, and we'll let me field a few others and we'll keep going. Hugh?
Yeah. Aaron, this might have be appropriate for you.
Sure.
If I have an account with Edward Jones, and I'm at the library and I get in on a secure site and it says HTTPS, I think that means it's secure.
Yes, sir.
Are there any special procedures I should do to just avoid getting scammed or?
Well, the first thing I would do is I would not log on from the computer at the library. It's, now, I mean, Edward Jones, we have secure apps for your phone to log into your accounts, and you can do the secure login if you do it at the library or you're in a hotel computer in the lobby kind of thing. Make sure you log out completely when you're done. One of the things about the Edward Jones system that we do, you can't actually make any trades in your account from the online system. You can communicate, though, with your financial advisor like myself. You can send email, direct, secure email through there. But the short answer is, I don't think it's wise to use a public computer for anything that's banking related, anything that is trackable like that, because you don't know what the security is on that computer. And you don't know if someone's installed phishing software on that computer so they can see, everything that's done on that computer and collect keystroke logging, and so they can get social security numbers and anything you type in.
A lot of scammers will set up appears like a hotspot at Starbucks or whatever. So it looks like where you are Wi-Fi. It's not. You want to do something that requires shopping online, do it at home, log out, make sure it says HTTPS, but make sure also when you're shopping, always to check up the URL. If you all know what the URL is, I refer to it as the return address for the site, because you get redirected so many times. So check every page you switch to, check and make sure you're still on that company's site. Okay, every single time, and check and make sure it's HTTPS.
And there'll be a little lock. There's a little lock in the menu bar as well. And that's from the browser. That means it's a secure connection. So.
Speaking of security, I noticed here in reducing your theft risk, it mentions that you shouldn't use your mailbox, your local
Please
postal
don't,
mailbox.
please
Why
don't.
is that?
No, it's don't use the one that's out in front of your house. It's take it down and give it to the postman. When you put that red flag up,
The red flag.
the red flag is a red flag for the crook. It means you got mail there. It's got information. It may have a check in it. A lot of people still mail checks that way. We'll see these meth heads that will bleach out the check. It becomes forged. They will create your identity. We see them steal hundreds. They will lift entire mailboxes from these condominium facilities, throw them in a truck, take them to a house, and they just start processing IDs, checks, and that ring then is out there in Golden, Denver, the whole metro area. So when you see those large indictments for identity theft, it's usually people that are addicted to meth, and our offices will usually indict 20, 30 people at a time. They all have a role in that ring, but a lot of it has to do with outgoing mail or what's in a mailbox.
Or incoming mail too.
Or a trash can behind your house that has information in it that's not shredded. We've talked about the high-tech nature of a lot of this stuff. When it comes to identity theft, what we see still, the number one way people get your identity is the old primitive way, mail and trash. And so you've got to watch yourself at all levels, on your computer at the library, anywhere it can be. So you put up that red flag, and they're saying, okay.
So I have Susie, Sally, tell me your name again. Kathy, and then back here.
And
Go ahead.
let me just add
Yes,
one
sure.
thing to that. As far as, shredding is very important. Most people don't have shredders at home.
Ask for one for Christmas.
Ask for one for Christmas. Also, there are groups that will do shredding for you.
Bayard Industries, and we would.
I do that.
Have a shred-a-thon for your.
We'll do it too.
We'll do it too.
I do shred events
Shred will do it.
for my clients a couple times a year, especially right after tax season. there are, if there's trusted people you work with that will happily take your shredding for you without
And you don't have
any
to
issue.
take every single piece of the junk mail, just the junk mail, tear off your return address and the bars. So you're not dealing with all the inserts in your direct mail. But
You don't need to
tear
worry
off
about
that
the
piece.
ads.
You don't have to have every.
Crosscut shredder too. If you're asking for one for Christmas, get a crosscut shredder, because we have these drug addicts that will put your trash back together.
Honestly,
And if they
They're up all
shred, if
night.
it's just
They have nothing but time.
just a normal shredder, they'll put it back
Right, they're
together.
like,
No, that's
ooh,
good.
this is
You want
fun,
a
I love
crosscut
going over to
shredder.
Mrs. Smith's house.
Susie?
Someone who's got a
First of
puzzle.
all,
that you-
Mike, is there a direct phone number to your office?
Yes.
You don't have to go through.
Yeah, and if you pick up one of these,
Okay.
it has our fraud line, and that's 720-91.
Wait, 720.
720-913-9179, and you'll either talk to Deb or to Mary. And the point I wanted to make about this, Jeffco has this, Arapahoe County has it, Adams County has it. We all have some form of this program. And don't think, oh, it's not bad enough. I don't need to call the DA's office. Call us. You're talking about establishing that network. Call us. We can help you do that. When we uncover these things, they can be, and Mauro can tell you, we have a whole group to network around people that we find living in horrible situations, that type of thing. And it may be something the police can't do, our office can't help, those kinds of things. But we don't just drop those people. We have social services at the table. We have the city attorney at the table. We have a lot of people in that network. The network you're talking about, extremely important. But don't think, hey, I can't bother the DA about this. That's what these people do for a living. You guys pay their salaries with your taxes. It's important to call them, even if you have a question. I left my purse on my car, I drove off. My mother-in-law did that in Jefferson County.
Yeah, that's right.
She called our people, connected to their people. Within 20 minutes, somebody was trying to use her credit card, and Jeffco had frozen it all. Told her what to do to freeze it. So what I'm saying is, we're there for your network. Call us. That's what we do. If you want us
And
to
those
come out and
methods are-
talk, we're there. So grab this. It has some good advice in
Another
it.
part of my question is, I got a phone call maybe a month ago, and it was NNet, and they said they would reduce my landline charges. They didn't get my bank account, they didn't get my social security number. All they had was my landline number. They were gonna send out information to verify everything. I've never heard from them. Do you know anything about NNet?
I have not.
Is
heard
it,
it.
is it the same as Nebraska TNT?
Yes, yes.
I've had about 3 calls on that. There used to be something, and this is the first I've heard it come around again for a long, long time, called phone slamming.
Okay.
And somewhere in that conversation, they get you to say the word yes,
Yes.
and they use that to transfer your phone service. I've had 3 of those calls in the last 3 weeks. Nebraska and TNT just services Minnesota, Nebraska, and Colorado.
Okay.
And they've automatically switched the service of people, and they've been very confused about that switch.
So how do I handle this when I get my bill?
Well, make sure you call your phone service carrier and say, I want to continue on with you.
Okay.
And the 3 people I've talked to couldn't get hold of anyone at Nebraska.
Couldn't get a hold of what?
No, anyone at this Nebraska and TNT
Okay.
company. But you're not under any legal obligation. You did not give permission to have your phone service switched. If you have to, call the Attorney General's office, because they handle interstate and telephone type of. Their regular number is 303.
Wait a minute.
I gotta remember we put the 2s or 4s first.
Okay, 303 what?
222-4444. And then, now while I've got the floor, now that Mr. Morrissey said something nice about us, I was going to say this even before you said that. A little known fact is I actually began what I do for the Denver District Attorney's Office back in 2002. I had the privilege of still being there for a couple of years while Mr. Morrissey was there. But one of the people that answers their hotline, Deb Champagner, has been there since 2002, answering that phone. I'm telling you, she will know the answers that you're looking for. Thank you.
She can give you things, I mean, that's the network we're talking about. Utilize it.
Sally?
Yes, I have received a very confusing letter, and I'm not quite sure what to do with it. I received it last week, and first of all, the envelope didn't have an address on the outside of it. When I opened the letter, they sent me a check addressed to me for $8,580.30. They say that the publisher's clearinghouse. They say, congratulations, we have for you $2,500,000. The publisher clearinghouse has made all necessary arrangements in order for you to receive your prize. Enclosed in this check is a check to cover insurance and attorney fees. Please contact your claim manager without any delay before, capital letters, depositing this check at your financial institution and for further information of this prize.
So Sally,
Donna has an
Sally,
answer.
yeah, we got an answer for you.
Okay, so what's going to happen there is you'll deposit, first you'll call. This is the way they set it up. That's why before, you have to call them because they want to make sure that you have followed their instructions before the bank figures out that that's a fake check. Because it looks legit, it has a routing number, all the rest of it, you'll deposit it into your account. But they're going to need some taxes from you. And they're going to have you wire money from your account just out of this $8,000. Not to worry, you're still getting the $2 million, right? But you owe us only $23,000 or $2,300 of this $2,300 to pay the taxes. It's just a little thing, little glitch or whatever. And as soon as you wire that money out, now remember, a wire you never get back. Nobody covers a wire. You've wired that money out. 3-4 days later, the bank figures out this is a bogus check. And you never got the $8,000. And if it takes them 3-4 days, you'll probably get 6 or 7 more calls about, oh, we gave you the wrong number, now we just need this little bit. Or because you live in Colorado, there's this extra little charge because you're in Colorado, and they will just drain you that way. And then, once that's done, you're on the list. And now you're going to get hit by every other scammer out there, every other scam that's sitting around. They're going to come after you because they know that you fell for it once, and you've got the money, and they'll just keep going.
So can I ask a question? So this is a perfect example of third-class mail, correct? Is this the... Okay,
Yeah.
Okay.
But Sally, you already did something wrong. It says by federal and state laws, you must keep this information strictly confidential.
Can't tell us.
Maybe Mr. Morrissey could help us know which state law they're referring to.
What I love about what you said, though, is you noticed in the envelope this was a scam, that there was no return address. And I got to tell you that these scammers scam everybody. And we come out and talk to seniors because you guys listen and you pay attention.
Exactly.
But they're after everybody, and they will get anybody. And so the idea that you guys are educating yourself, I've got a guy I see in the locker room, he used to own a big furniture store down by the Pepsi Center, and every time he gets an email from a scammer, he sends it to me. Because he knows I've got people that need to know about the latest scams, so they can tell you guys about that. But don't think, we tell you your targets, and your targets for a reason, because you have nest eggs and that kind of thing. But these guys are after everybody. And I've got to tell you that I find seniors to be the most educated people when it comes to these issues of anybody in our society. You should be telling your kids that have little children to freeze those little children's credit accounts. Freeze those. Is your 2-year-old granddaughter going to need to buy a car anytime soon? they will steal her identity. And when she hits 21 and her credit is ruined, it's because they didn't freeze her credit when she was a child who didn't need that kind of credit for 20 some odd years. So the fact that you pick up on it before you even open the envelope is really good news for what we're trying to get across to a segment of our community.
So Kathy's turn,
How
yeah,
do you freeze credit? How do you do that?
Just call them.
go ahead, go ahead.
We had brought up the fact that when you get these calls on your landline and you look at the caller ID and it's your name and your phone number. I saw some surprise on your faces up there a little bit. Is this, I have never picked up the phone. I don't know who it is. Have any of you ever picked up the phone? What are they?
It's a machine.
What are they doing? How is that possible?
Cary, you have? Yeah.
They have a mechanism to spoof your caller identification. And so they can put in Mr. Morrissey's office if they wanted to. You look down and it says the Denver District Attorney's Office.
No, it'll say 5555.
Yeah.
All numbers blocked.
Or it'll say unknown.
Unknown, blocked, yeah.
But the whole point is, these crooks know that you've wizened up. You look down, you see an area code you don't recognize, you don't answer. So now it's like, I know how to get your attention. I'll put your own name and phone number in there, and maybe you'll answer that just out of curiosity.
Just to get you to pick up the
Do they
phone.
get that from the phone book, typically?
They can buy lists.
And you know, it's as easy to put that phone receiver down as it is to pick it up.
Thank you.
They're just trying to get you to pick it up. And what we always are saying is just hang up. If they call back again, that number I gave you earlier is the number that you give them.
Well, if you pick
So-
up the phone,
You end it.
have you, without
it's
saying
not
anything or
one-
doing anything, have you compromised anything at that point?
You paid attention.
Well, no, actually, how many of you have gotten a call that says, "Hi, this is Jane with Credit Card Services"?
Oh, yeah.
And if you don't, I'm calling to give you an opportunity to lower your interest rate.
All the time.
Right. So what she'll say is, she'll give you an option. Press 1 if you don't want to receive this call anymore. Press 2 to talk to someone. What I say is 2 things. Press no number, because pressing a number with a robocall signals to the robot, for lack of a better, that this is an active number, that this has a real live person on the end. So it doesn't disconnect you from doing that. Pressing 2, if you want to lower your credit card, what I would tell you is, then you go out as a consumer and go seek a lower interest rate yourself. Don't wait and say, I'm going to respond. So yes, to answer your question, if you pick up the phone and press the number or stay on the line, it does signal to a robocall, this is an active number. So what I tell people is, if you have caller ID and you don't recognize the number, or it's your number, do not answer the phone. Go back to where we were years ago when someone would call you, you weren't there, and they'd call back if they want you. Just don't answer the phone if you don't know the number. They will keep doing it. So if you press the
Well,
number.
another thing that we've had lately is where they'll leave a message and they'll say, we're looking for Ernest somebody or another. Press 1 if you are not Ernest. Call back, press 1 if you are not Ernest, so, or press 2 or something. And I bet I've gotten a dozen of those in the last month or so.
The least amount of time that you have from now on of answering those calls, those calls will decrease because you're no longer that sucker. They're going to go somewhere where vision's easy.
Well, with senior citizens of our age generation and my mother's generation, there was a level of, kindness. And you think, well, I should let them know that they've called the wrong number, that they, then I can, be courteous and let them know they just dialed the wrong number. Well, you can't be that courteous anymore.
That's right.
You can't.
They're preying
You
on
have
your
to
conscience.
not pick
Yeah,
up the
it's like
phone.
standing there and taking the punch.
That's right.
Right,
Yeah,
you
so
know,
we
we
have-
used to be able to duck those and fight fair. These guys do not fight fair, and we just stand there now and take the punch.
And they have more direct access. That's the other, from wherever they live, they have direct access to your money, which is much different than the way we grew up, right? So we have 5 minutes. We have one question here, and then John here, and then I'd like to save enough time here that each of you can make any closing discussion. Yes, sir.
Don't be stupid. If you have any questions, you ask your grandson or your great-grandson what you should do, and they will tell you point blank what you're doing wrong, okay? First off, if you're doing business with anybody, you're not eyeball to eyeball with them, you're just downright stupid, okay? Does that mean you can't do business on the internet? Heavens no. You have a trusted soul and you are reaching out to them. Point number 2, use a credit card, period. And if you have a credit card on the back, do not sign it, you just simply say ask for ID. It's a system that's absolutely infallible. No one will ever be able to break that code, ever. If they do, the merchant is liable for it. Number 3, the comments about shred your stuff are just absolute nonsense. I have been in physical and computer security for almost 50, 60 years. Now, do you imagine anybody is going to go diving through your Dipsy dumpster looking to put together little tiny pieces from a shredder? Heavens no. Would you tell us how much it costs to buy one of your leads online?
One of our, the
leads that they
programs?
sell, yeah, the qualified leads. 10 cents?
Oh, you mean like in the dark web?
Right.
Yeah, it's about 10 cents.
10 cents. Why is anybody going to go looking for a...
However, sir, one thing that you need to understand is that's purchased in bitcoins and things like that, and that gets into a much more difficult criminal element.
Well, I'm just saying to
The
you-
fact that people will dumpster dive
Yeah.
is clearly established. They do. So please shred your information.
So you can shred your
Thanks.
information, you do all that.
John?
sort of thing.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, I think
Go
it
ahead,
was
Chief.
you that was going to raise, or provide some information on something that may help us prevent all of this third-class mail
Yeah, I
coming
just,
through. Is there something, now, I understand that's the, some of the nonprofits are
Are gonna
okay
sneak-
with that. And,
Yeah.
you can't do much about that.
Well-
But that's what most of mine is, but I'm looking for some way to cut down on this, any of this third class, because it's getting more and more.
Sure.
And if you do try.
and letter
to send some
carriers
money
would
out
love
to-
you, because they have to lug that stuff around though,
So
which
would
is
the
why my
trees.
brother's pushing it, yeah, the trees too. But you have a letter apparently in your information, is that right?
Do you have the direct marketing?
Are you asking me?
Yeah. I
No,
have it.
Maura.
Maura here.
Yeah.
Do I have it on that thing? I have it, or else I will send it to you.
Well, and my brother, I just pulled up his text to the family, and he simply says, not a lot of people know this, but you can stop third-class mail from coming to your house if you want. You just have to contact the post office, and you won't get any more junk mail.
You can
So-
probably do it on USPS.gov.
Yeah, and-
Are you sure about that? You can go over to the post office and they won't look right through you and say, oh.
Well,
Rolling
he
over.
works for the Postal Service, and so.
I'll send it to you.
We'll get, so, and we'll...
I'll get it to these guys and they'll
Yeah,
send
on
it
your
out.
sign-in sheet today, make sure that we have your info, and we'll send you the info about this.
Awesome.
We have one other question from John Belts, and then closing.
You just answered my question.
Okay, thanks.
And I'm sorry, I haven't done it
That's
myself
all
yet.
right. I
I'm working
didn't
on
know.
it.
So let's-
This could be a new thing that's coming down the pipe.
No, it's been established for a
It's-
long
okay,
time. So it's a
I'm kind of aware of
requirement of direct mail companies
Yeah.
to unsubscribe. But make sure when you're signing up of things, look for that checkbox that they automatically check that says, keep me posted. But we'll send it to you.
Thank you, Maura. And so we'll have just closing statements if you'd like to say anything to
Oh, yeah, one more point, and I'll keep it brief, and I kind of probably should pass this down the line a little bit further here. People get concerned about prosecuting their family members. That's a big concern about, I don't want to get them in trouble, I just want them to, can't you make them blank? Essentially, as law enforcement, we don't have any of those powers to make people do things. We can take away their liberties and put them in jail. But essentially, when it comes down to prosecuting and pressing charges, that really comes down to a judge's decision about what needs to happen. He's the only one that can make your loved one pay restitution, pay you back, go to classes, get into drug treatment. Police can't do that, family members can't do that. So when it comes to prosecution, it's not always as bad as you think, and truly, prosecution is sometimes the best and only way to make something happen that you really want to see happen for the betterment of your family unit. So
Thank you very much. Thank you. Cary?
You know, when I started working for the Denver District Attorney's Office back in 2002, it's a long time ago.
It was.
I had the privilege of working with just a very, very wise colleague who was kind of the beginning, and Amaro is now the manifestation of this person for the Denver DA's office. But when we would go out and do presentations, and this refers, it's just a simple advice for telephone calls, and it's as applicable to email. She used to always say, "What did your mom tell you when you were 5 years old?"
Don't talk to strangers.
Wouldn't that take care of it? Never talk to strangers. So we just need to, recall that advice our moms gave us when we were heading off to kindergarten, and apply it to all of these phone calls and all these emails that we're getting today.
Thank you.
I think probably the number one takeaway from today for everybody should be, if something doesn't seem right, it's probably not. If someone seems fishy, if something seems not quite straight, if someone feels like they're not telling you the whole truth, they're probably not. And if you see something, say something. Talk to people around you, and call the DA's office, talk to your family members, and make sure that you're not on an island by yourself.
Thank you. Nancy?
Well, I think we've heard about some solutions to the problem that I encountered personally. So that's what we're here for, is to help you find resources and know what to do if this happens to you.
Thank you.
What happened to me.
Thanks, Nancy. And before Mitch, Maura, do you have any closing words too? Because I think that you have some insight, and then we can.
I would say one thing: if you want to get a deal, if you want to pave your driveway, if you want your tree limbs cleared, roofing, go out, get 3 bids. Don't respond to the person who's knocking on your door or sending you a direct mail piece. Take the time. We are also, our consumerism keeps us, we want to get a good deal. Who doesn't want to get a good deal? You'll end up being out more money. Take the time, look for 3 bids, and then choose.
And one pitch I will make for a little help again is that our preferred providers list is vetted folks. We have their insurance information. We have their Better Business Bureau, if it's applicable. If it's a handyman, we know 100 other people who've worked with that handyman before. We'll give you 3 names.
Good.
And so that's a big piece of that. And if there's any issues, we'll advocate on your behalf. So that's another. If you're not a member of a Little Help, it's a good. It helps part of that process. Thank you very much, Mitch. Mr. Morrissey.
Thank you guys for coming, and I think that this is an incredibly important issue for all of us, not just seniors. Like I said, I think that we see infants that have their identities stolen. I will tell you one last thing, though. We had a victim of identity theft, and the reason that he found out that he was a victim was that he applied for his tax refund, and he found that he wasn't entitled to a tax refund because he was making far too much money. His identity had been stolen. The individual that had stolen it was not from our country, but was using his identity. He was a bricklayer making a lot of money. He was also paying our victim's child support, and had been, out of that check, for about the last 10 years. He was the only victim of identity theft I've ever seen that probably owed the bad guy about $10,000 because he was a deadbeat dad. But that can tell you what happens if they get your Social Security number. They end up then taking on your identity for whatever purpose it is. This actually was so he could work in the country and his taxes would be taken out, but also that child support was taken out as well. If you have any questions about anything that we've talked about today, call us, contact us. If you have a question about somebody that's calling you, if you have a question about that check that you got in the mail, those are the kinds of questions we answer. Don't think, oh, that's the DA's office, I can't call. And I'm talking about the DA's office in the 1st Judicial District, 18th Judicial District, 17th. We all do this. We want to prevent these crimes. We don't want you to be victims. We certainly don't want to prosecute anybody that, any of these people that aren't telling us that this is going on, the doctors, those types of things, like I said. It's important to know this stuff. It's annoying, but you've got to go through it to end it. Don't hesitate to call us. Thanks.
Thanks very much, everyone, for being here.